Welcome to the Breathe Believe podcast show, and I am your host, Brianna. And today we're going to talk about the heroine's journey because there are probably a lot of women that have not yet heard this concept, and it has been so radically healing to the point that I now understand that the hero's journey and the heroine's journey are not the same. And here's what I mean. When women go through a heroine's journey, they don't understand that they're actually looking for their feminine nature. They're looking for their mother. They're looking for nurturing. And they go through a cycle that basically perpetuates so much pain that they build the masculine armor around their heart because they're going through a very parallel story where they have to also conquer their demons. And so it's not about the heroine's journey or, the hero's journey being in comparison. It's just an awareness that women are going to have a little bit of a different story than a man is going to have. And it's really great because at the end of the day, whether it's the heroine or the hero, what's really beautiful is that they're the same journey, because eventually you have to come to understand that you have always been the one that can pull you out of essentially the dark night of the soul or the hell that you've experienced. And I feel like so many times people are looking for their one drug addiction, their one savior, they're looking for a magic pill. Think about it. It's like sometimes we get in relationships and we put all of our golden eggs in a basket and we're like, this person's going to rescue me. And it doesn't happen. Or sometimes we get into there's so many different things that cause us to believe that this one thing is the one answer. And the greatest aspect that really perpetuated my own journey was, holy shit, I didn't know that there wasn't one answer. And of course, we all have different childhoods and such, which help us identify with certain beliefs. And that's why we resonate with certain people, because we're familiar with a certain energy. But the heroine's journey is really beautiful because in essence, what it teaches us is that the women, like us women, feel so disconnected from our natural state of being. And we have had so much perpetual pain or experiences that have taught us to armor up, to guard up, to go into this masculine culture, especially if you're in the Western world, it's perpetuated more. And then what's even more sad about that is then you're even more disconnected because your heart is blocked and you feel like you have to climb a ladder in a man's world. And it's not to say that this is a battle of the sexes, because if you know me, there is no business in my life of thinking that women are better or less than a man. In fact, I'm all about the equilibrium of all things. Because to be quite frank, if you're not aware, you actually do have masculine and feminine energy within you. Every single person does. If we didn't have that, then we wouldn't actually be whole. And so this idea that we're broken is just nonsense, because what we need to understand is that we have already been given everything we need in order to have a functional and thriving life. The thriving part, though, is something that we have to do. We have to add thriving to our own lives. So I want to actually pull up the heroine's journey and help you guys understand its cyclical nature. And what I think is so beautiful about every single person's journey is that, and I've learned this from experience, so take it for a grain of salt or huck it out the window. But what I have learned is that anytime someone tries to give you an answer, anytime someone tries to give you the solution, it's almost like not important, or it holds no value sometimes because you haven't had a direct experience with it. And so when I learned about my human design and gene keys, I realized that my entire business was to speak to the heroine's journey. And so if you haven't been listening to any of my podcasts, the reason I don't call my podcast like human design or gene keys is because it's so much more than that. And when someone doesn't understand the terminology or even know what the hell human design is, they're going to turn their eye, because I know I did. And my message is so much more broad than a system, because in essence, at the end of the day, what I solve is the hunger within every single human being that can't find or access unconditional love out there. They thought it would be in this job. They get working in the job, the unconditional love, that feeling, it's not there. And so we're constantly hunting down two things. We're literally hunting. Like, imagine hunting. So we're hunting for this unconditional love. And we're also hunting for this dopamine, this satisfaction, this fulfillment. And what's really paradoxical about that is that dopamine is never long lasting, especially when it's coming from a place of external, like, fulfillment. So it's why sometimes, like, I'm going to use drugs. It's a really bad example, but it's true. It's what people have shared with me. It's like they say in the beginning, the high is so amazing in the beginning, but then, like, after 3 months, they're normal. It's like, it's normalized. And the way I compare that in my own experience is like, okay, that's like caffeine for me. It's like, I know what caffeine does for my body. So then, like, in a year from now, I'm not going to be like, oh, that is so amazing, right? Because we've built our level of tolerance to now accept it as a normal. So I know there's a lot of ideas I'm throwing at you. So let me slow down and help you understand why all of these different ideas actually have everything to do with your journey. It's not like separate ideas, okay? So put human design and gene keys on a shelf. Put everything that you know on a shelf, just for a minute. And I want you to ask yourself, are there places in my life where I'm still upset, angry, and have not forgiven? Because when I entered that decision, unconsciously, I believed that it would be the last dopamine. It would be the solution. It would be the magic pill. It would be the thing to stabilize, to stabilize unconditional love, or to stabilize this feeling. So what's interesting is that we fill ourselves up. We consume, literally food, buying, shopping, drugs, addiction, sex, new person, new boyfriend, new career, and we go through this cycle, okay? And this cycle only stops when we take unconditional love, that feeling state we're after, and we give it to ourselves, and we train our body to hold that level of tolerance regardless of the outside world, because here's where the brain does not want to slow down. When you finally hit the realization point that nothing out there is worth sacrificing your soul for, you will focus more on the feeling you're after first, and then everything out there will be an added benefit. So this is like kind of crazy, but follow me for a minute, okay? Because I told you I wanted to talk about the heroine's journey, which I do. And the reason for that is because in this journey, what you don't understand is the reason you have, especially women, I'm going to talk to you specifically just for a minute. Men, do not tune out because it still has everything to do with you. But what we don't realize, what we don't know yet, is that we're only looking to conquer our demons and our dragons and our shadow selves because on the other side, we are looking for unconditional love. There it is. I found it. So the heroine's journey, women, it goes like this. So at some point, we come into these physical bodies. We have a separation for the feminine. Let's call it mother, which is really, really profound if you think about it, because the minute you leave your mother's womb, are you not are you not aware that you just left this very warm, delicious space inside of your mother's womb? Okay. So we separate from the feminine. Very first step into life. We left mom's womb. We have left the nurturing space. Let's say it that way. We have left the nurturing space. Now we're going to go through a process as we grow up where we're going to identify with the masculine and we're going to gather our allies. So this is my perception. I'm not here to give you my beliefs. I'm just here to share them. When we leave the feminine, that nurturing, that womb space, we're not really sure it's safe anymore because we're like, oh boy, there's not this like really dark space that's giving us all our nutrients and love. So then we're taught we have to go earn it. And it's nobody's fault, by the way. This is like literally just human life. Like, you're going to come out of the womb because you want to be alive, dude. You wanted to be human. Get over it. And it says, then you will then identify with the masculine and you will gather your allies. So then after that process, you're going to have a road of trials, which is about meeting orgs and dragons. Now, I love the language of this because it takes us back to our primitive years where quite literally it was about survival. And so if you're listening to this, I want you to think about how you're just barely trying to survive. Like your shit is so like feeling not safe that you are literally trying to survive. So think about your bank account. Most people associate survival with finances. And then after we experience all of these trials, we go into finding some sort of success. So maybe the career gets better, or maybe you feel like, oh, you can finally catch a break because, you know, you have this person, right? Remember I talked about dopamine. You found this sort of fulfillment. So you're starting to experience success. So you've come out of mom's womb, you're growing up, you're doing life. You've learned to armor your heart, bottom line. You've learned to identify with the masculine. So you're going to learn to protect. And then after you've done all that protecting, you find some sort of success because you're like, oh, good, I can finally take a breath. What you don't know is that all of that armor you are wearing is still on. So hold with me. Next, we're going to go into awakening to feelings of spiritual aridity, aka death. Something then happens to cause an awakening. And if you haven't had this experience in your life yet, I guarantee you that you're listening to this podcast or this YouTube because something in your life is happening and you don't understand it. And all it feels like to you is death. It's actually the most scary feeling in the world. I went through this process in 2020 when I got divorced for the second time. And my entire reality shattered. Okay, that I will share in another episode. So we have this awakening to spiritual aridity, and then we have like this sort of death that happens. Now, then what happens in that death, which you don't know, and I say this tagline in every retreat, everything. The literal thing that I would have you write down or like literally engrave upon your heart is that the thing that broke you is the thing that woke you. And when you know that at your core, you don't have to hold on to such garbage and baggage. You can literally forgive it all. Because in that awakening, the thing that breaks you is the thing that wakes you. And in that awakening, what happens is we then have what's called an initiation or a preparation period where we literally isolate or we cocoon. Because when you're going through like a death, do you want to be out there celebrating or going to the grocery store and telling everyone your business? Maybe not. I didn't. In fact, I recouped for probably almost a year and a half before I was willing to like sort of kind of go back into like the public is what it felt like. Okay, so then what happens is we go through this preparation period where we descend and we go to the goddess. So here's what I love about the language of that is that based on your religious background or spirituality, it doesn't matter what you hold as a belief. As much as what does matter is that in this initiation period, you're returning back to love. And love can be masculine or feminine, but for the sake of the heroine's journey, I'm going to speak to the language it uses because you're going to return to the goddess. You're going to return to mama. You're going to return quite literally to the part of you at a spiritual essence that needs this nurturing and can't do life the way it's been doing life. So then after we do this sort of initiation or preparation, then we're going to go into urgent yearning to reconnect with the feminine. So we start to yearn and we start to yearn and we start to yearn because remember how I told you we're all after unconditional love and we're seeking for dopamine. And men, this does apply to you too. At some point of your life, you will start to yearn for something and it's going to start to feel like something is missing. So it doesn't matter if $1 million is in the bank account. It doesn't matter if you have the most amazing relationship in your life. It doesn't matter if you have all the success that you thought you wanted. You're going to go and the reason I'm sharing this is because I wish someone could have explained this to me before I found it when I did. And I'm not saying I wasn't taken care of. I definitely was. I had amazing friends in this process. And what I want to do is give language or verbiage or translation to a woman who doesn't understand or a man who's like, dude, what is missing? I'm looking for fulfillment. Pause What you're actually looking for is a yearning to reconnect with the feminine. And this is what's beautiful, is that you can have shitty relationship connections with your mother. You can have no connections with anybody right now and literally feel like a loner. And this process still applies, because the yearning to reconnect with the feminine is a call for the nurturing. And so when you self-nurture, you literally have no idea that just literally laying on the ground in a park or laying on the grass or putting your feet on the earth will reconnect you back to mother, because the only reason you feel lost is because you don't feel connected. And the way to connect is so simple, but the brain doesn't love simplicity, because it has a very strong wired program in its brain, quite literally, to armor, to fight, to provide, to survive. So literally when you go into yearning and you're in a space of preparation, dude, you need to cocoon because you're learning a new language. You weren't taught that if you slow down, you'll make more money. You weren't taught that if you share your heart openly, that you'll receive more love back. You weren't taught this, and it's not because you were a victim in your childhood. This is so literally the human experience. And so what we do after we yearn is we start to heal that mother-daughter split. Okay, women, I'm talking to you about the heroine's journey. And I don't think it doesn't apply to men, just like women can still relate to the hero's journey. It's just going to be a very different cyclical nature. Okay, but at the end of the day, bottom line, there's a shitstorm and then you become your own hero. And the process, the steps are so important, because then you'll be more gentle with yourself when you know where you're at. So you'll start to heal the mother-daughter split. Now, that can look like physically connecting with your mother. That can look like writing letters. That can look like just rage. I know from my own process, it was rage. It was like wanting to burn the world down. And now my mother is my best friend in the whole world. But there was a time and space where my human brain wanted to blame someone before I understood this is just the journey. This is just the beautiful journey that a woman goes through. And it's not just about, oh, you had a period, now don't talk about it. It's not that, but it's so much deeper. And so then what we do is, after we heal the feminine, the bigger wound that we get to heal is our masculine, because then we have to look at where we've misused it, where we didn't feel safe, we didn't feel protected, we didn't feel secure, we didn't feel nourished, we didn't feel those things. And so we had to create it, and we're fucking pissed at the masculine because we don't know where the hell it is. And then you look at, holy shit, and then you go back into childhood, and then maybe you look at your dad. But what I want to say is that regardless, in these two steps, women, ladies, it is not our job to blame our parents, because, dude, hello, they went through this very same process. So why are we blaming our mother who didn't XYZ and our dad who didn't XYZ, when, like, let's go put our awareness in their body and their mind, look at their parents. And I guarantee you that you would choose your parents over theirs any day. And so we're all doing the best with what we have. We just need to trust that our process is perfect. But I say that because in your rage, I want you to be so okay with your anger and your grieving process for why you thought you had to do those things. But on the other side is quite literally rebirth. So once we heal the mother-daughter split, we then heal the masculine wound, and it's the wounded masculine. And then this really beautiful process happens where we're in the integration phase of the feminine and the masculine. So then we hit a space in our life where we're like, okay, I felt all of that, now what? And the integration is, oh, so now that I've literally gone from, I feel disconnected, I need to guard my heart, I need to, fight my own dragons, it's just me, I'm all alone, F you all, into this sort of like, oh my gosh, now I'm having a death because nothing fulfills me and nothing actually is what they said it would be. And then we go into this like return back to the goddess, which is like, I just yearn to know what that's like again. I yearn to know what unconditional love can do from the inside out, because this game out there isn't actually promising what it said it would deliver. And then what we do is we heal the masculine and the feminine, but in reverse order. So we heal the feminine first, because there needs to be enough safety to then heal the masculine. And when we heal the masculine, that's when all the armor drops. That's when the heart comes awake. That's when the heart awakens. And that's when we're able to go back into integration. So here's what's really cool. once you complete the heroine's journey, it's my belief that it's not necessarily a one-time thing. It just gets deeper and better and better and better. Because then you wake up in your everyday life and you still have amazing goals. Don't get me wrong. You still want to make the money. You still want to serve. You still want to be in this beautiful relationship. You still want to work out. It's not that the desire for those things changes, but what does change is that instead of waiting for those things to love you, to give you the unconditional love that you once felt, you start to play the game in reverse. So we're reversing your learned behavior and we're getting unconditional love from the inside out. And because we're already full all of the time, now we actually have something to give. And it's like an added benefit, but we're not taught that. We're taught to progress on a material level and then sort of like leave our spiritual essence behind, or materialism is the way you progress, but no one's taught you that materialism is an added bonus or benefit. But real progress, write this down, real progress is through awareness. So if you want to actually grow and actually feel satiated with unconditional love from the inside out, then you literally need to understand that materialism is so beautiful. And I'm a tourist for all of my astrology babes out there, or even men. Like, dude, literally, it doesn't matter. Astrology has a lot of importance in this. My point is, I love materialism. It is like so number 3 on my list of like things that I love. And I no longer wait for that dream to fill me up. And so this is where I want to integrate this conversation with the men as well, because I feel like a lot of us humans in general have been taught to sort of like play the waiting game. It's like when you get the promotion, you're worthy. When you earn the money, you're worthy. When you do the thing, you're worthy. And I'm saying bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. If you're tired of playing the waiting game, let's speed up the process and learn a few new tricks, right? And I don't believe you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's some bullshit, right? The old dog just doesn't have a good trainer. That's it. Let's not blame the dog. Let's look at who's responsible for taking care of the dog, right? And so I say that because you literally are limitless. But I don't want you to sort of run after materialism or limitless and be empty. It's like you deserve to have fuel in your car. And not only that, but you deserve to have the best vehicle that there is. And this body is the answer. So for those that needed to hear that message, please, I do have a masterclass for you on what human design and gene keys is, simply because it is how I realized that this was my message to the world. And if you're even a slight bit curious on learning more about you, that will change your freaking life, just like all of these things. So last but not least, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe. Do that right now. I will make sure to upload videos at least once a week. And let's be honest, if you get them more than that, that's an added bonus. I'm mixing benefit and bonus lately. It's really cute. It's an added B. B. And that's actually a perfect segue to remind you to be you, be authentic, and believe. Until next time, I love you.